Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Chris Stengel. I am the Director of Technology at the Mount Lebanon School District. And thank you for tuning in to Social Citizenship, Parenting Considerations in the Age of Social Media, version 2. I presented on this topic last year at our first parent university, and it's a topic that I am passionate about. And while typically I would prefer a more engaging two-way conversational presentation, I recognize that that is not to be. So I look forward to maybe seeing some or most or all of you next year in version 3 of this topic. But for now, let's do the best we can with what we've got. I just wanted to talk with you for a little while about some considerations for social media use by your children. So let's get started. So first thing, this is not going to be a presentation of the dangers of social media. It is not meant to scare. It is not meant to play into any fears, but certainly we can recognize fears and issues and potential pitfalls, things to look out for in terms of the use of social media by our children. But it's not going to be that. We're not going to do a big danger scheme. This is going to be more of a discussion of things that we can consider as parents. I'm a parent of 2 boys in the district, one a sophomore at the high school and one an 8th grader at Mellon. And, we deal with a lot of these same issues ourselves in our household. So a lot of tonight's thing will be me bringing forward some things that we've done in our household that work for us. And it's not meant to judge, and it's not meant to be any sort of statement about what you should do. It's more about presenting some things to consider while you figure out what is best for you and your family to do. So hopefully no one takes this as a preachy, Mr. Stengel said we should do this, because it's really more of, here are some things to make sure you're looking out for and thinking about and considering as you stitch together, sort of a plan for what's going to work best for your family. The first thing I want to point out, though, is that virtually all of the social media platforms that are out there and that we'll talk about tonight have an age requirement for people to have an account on them. And that age limit is typically 13. So our younger students who are under the age of 13 are typically prohibited by the rules of the social media platform from having an account. And what does that actually mean? Well, if some students are under the age of 13 and have an account, I guess the question is, what sort of message does that send if you're letting them sidestep that rule? So I would strongly recommend abiding to the rules of the platform, and typically those are going to be the students have to be 13. So something to look out for. But I do want to present some examples tonight of social media use that is positive and engaging, life-changing, world-altering, etc., in an effort to, paint a picture of social media use that might not be all that frightening, and in fact might be quite encouraging and inspirational. Sit With Us is a great example of a social media platform that was designed by kids for the good of the common student. It was designed actually by a 16-year-old girl who was a victim of bullying when she was in middle school. A severe bullying, I think she called it. And I think she even transferred schools, but she felt terrible having to eat lunch alone every day. And her goal was to create an app, which she did at the age of 16, to make sure that no kids felt like they had nowhere to go at lunch. So she made this Sit With Us. It's free to download. It's private to use. It connects, kids in need with students who are welcoming and, saying sit with us. It's a great story. Here's another one. Hopefully many of you have seen the skateboarding, cranberry juice sipping TikToker. He was a viral sensation this year. He was riding his skateboard a great distance to work, but having a very relaxing time and playing some music by Stevie Nicks and company, and drinking Ocean Spray cranberry juice. So it turned into a viral sensation. And the fun upside of this is that, Ocean Spray caught on and bought him a truck, and the popularity and fame that came from this actually led to a lot of good things happening for this guy who was just taking a chill ride to work on his skateboard. Another really fun example that I like to talk about is these two adorable little children in India who were filmed by their dance teacher doing these acrobatics, these flips and somersaults on their way to school in their school uniforms. And they had no idea what this video was going to do, but it went out and it became quite viral. And it was eventually caught the eye of Nadia Comaneci, an Olympic gymnast, and led to the students getting gymnastics scholarships. Some more great examples. There is a thing called Girlfolk. It's a blog started by a teenager. It's all student driven, inspiring girls from around the world to turn in stories on mental health and self-care and cooking, travel, and probably a lot more. The website basically pulls teen girls from around the world to contribute and write and offer inspirational stories. It's an amazing inspiration. Joshua's Heart Foundation is a young man who really was into volunteerism, developed a passion for helping the hungry when he was 4 years old. Really cute story, but continued on, and he made this foundation, and it's got a YouTube channel and a Facebook channel and a Twitter and an Instagram, and pretty much probably everywhere there's social media, Joshua's Heart has a thing. And I think they've recruited maybe over 25,000 young volunteers to help feed hungry individuals and families around the world. So it's pretty great story. This is an older one. Maybe some of you saw this on, I think CBS did a big piece on this. James Robertson was a great guy who is a great guy, but was walking over 10 miles each way to work every day and caught the attention of, I think, a newspaper writer who interviewed him and found out that his car had broken and he couldn't afford to repair it, which caught the attention of this young man, a 19-year-old, who created an online fundraiser and got the guy a truck. And it was a pretty good feel-good story, but it wouldn't have happened without social media. So, there's a lot of examples. There's a ton more even. I mean, there's anonymous tweets and Twitter feeds and Instagram pages created by students to spread positivity within their schools. There's a great story I told last year, I think, about a Minecraft forum on Reddit, which is just like an online discussion board. But basically, these other teens talked a depressed teen out of committing suicide on the thing, and it was just really inspirational. Social media uses by kids for kids. So this is all just to say that it's not necessarily scary, and it's not necessarily all fearful, but let's talk about both of them. Let's go right into it. Let's do it. There's positive and there's negative, right? It's a tool. Social media is a tool, and it is meant to accomplish things, and it can be used in good positive ways, and it can be used in bad negative ways. So last year, which was more fun, I asked the parents who were in each of my sessions to using a tool called Poll Everywhere. I asked them to text in some words to a word cloud, which I'll show you in a second. Basically, positive outcomes, negative outcomes to teens using social media. So the following screens are screen captures from last year. This is what the parents said. The words that are larger were more commonly contributed. So the larger a word, the more people said it, basically. And this in and of itself, this poll everywhere is a great fun social media type tool that can be used in any kind of presentation or classroom setting, but a little off topic, but poll everywhere. It's pretty neat. So a lot of the great, friendship, connectivity, we'll talk about that. The second group, a lot of the same thing, friends, connection, sharing, fun, homework, support. So some of the negative outcomes that some parents tossed out there was bullying, very common. Another one that came up a little bit was distraction. And I wanted to just basically touch on that just a little bit, right? Because, the notion that social media is distracting is, in some ways valid, but in other ways, you can look at it as people going to social media when they are apt to be distracted, right? So sometimes it's important to look at maybe a root cause of, why distraction is happening, rather than sort of blame the tool for having this magnetic lure that causes everyone to just rush to it. For those of you who are Harry Potter fans, I always like to say it's not a Horcrux. The cell phone, the social media apps, the being online, it's not a person. It's just an object. It's a tool, right? So it's not able to actually control you. It's just a place to go. It's a thing to do. It's so again, no judging. I hate to judge. I don't want to judge, but considerations, right? It's not as easy as just blaming the place to which people go when they are distracted. You can't blame that place for the actual being distracted. So that's it. That's all. But I wanted to reference this great book by Nancy Smith. There's a picture of it later. There's a link to it later in the presentation as well. It's by Nancy Smith, and it's called Social Citizens, A Positive Approach to Social Media and Parenting in a Digital World. And I read it, and I only needed to read it once, and it all clicked in my head, and it was very foundational for me in terms of ways to see the positives of social media use by children, namely my own, and at the same time, offers some good considerations and how to stay out of the areas that aren't going to be too positive for your kids as well. But this book listed 6 positive outcomes of using social media. And I can't remember if it's good to get a C. I can't remember if that's my phrase or a phrase from the book, but it's a good phrase either way, right? So, students can use social media and achieve greater connection and a better communication. And there are a billion examples of using social media to inspire creativity and bolster confidence and help with comprehension. Every fact in the world is somewhere able to be looked up through a cell phone, right? So the transformational effect that has on education and learning is that if you know that you'll have a device at the ready nearby that can get you any fact you need to know, what problems can you solve that haven't been solved with that in mind? And it gets to be pretty interesting. It's a fun little thinker for the use of social media and cell phones in classrooms. But again, we've gone on a tangent. Compassion. I highlighted a number of examples early, but certainly there are hundreds, millions on the internet examples of compassionate uses of social media. So what are all these apps though, right? Because that's the biggest question I always get, one of them was even asked by me a couple of years ago. I was like, what is this Snapchat, right? Holy cow, there's always a new app out there, and there's always something that's rising in popularity that I just want to settle on Facebook. Can't I just like have everybody be on Facebook? No, of course not. Facebook is for older people like me. Um, and kids today are on Snapchat or they're somewhere else, right? And the whole purpose of bringing this up is to say that staying ahead of your kids in terms of what's out there is really a fool's errand. You're never going to do it, right? You're never going to be ahead of the curve. I mean, obviously if your kids are like 4, you got a chance. But once your kids get to middle school, high school, staying ahead of what's popular in apps is never going to happen for you as a parent. I'm just going to save you the time right now. Don't even try, right? But the question is, what do these apps help students accomplish? And what sort of apps, what categories of apps are there? So that when the next new one comes along, you have a sense, you can quickly get a sense rather, of, what category does it fall into? What is the purpose of this app versus the other apps that you might be more familiar with? Because it's all about having conversations with your kids, being able to talk about a new app that comes out, your student is on, geez, I can't even think of Discord. Well, what the heck is Discord? You're going to have a conversation with your students. Say, why do you want to be on Discord? What is Discord offering you, right? And it's really those conversations that are going to instill in your students the proper decision-making things that you're going to need to trust them with when new things hit them, because the new things aren't going to get to you first, they're going to get to them first. And your students need to be able to make good decisions based on their knowledge of what's safe, what's responsible, what's positive, what's uplifting, what's constructive about a way to use this new thing that just came out. And if you get your students armed with that mentality, you'll be okay, not knowing the next great thing that comes out before they do, right? So, great quote from the book. If you understand what your child is doing online, you'll have a better understanding of why the attraction for them to use it is so strong, right? So I mentioned that I can't stand Snapchat. It doesn't make sense to me. It's not intuitive. I hate that I have to swipe all different directions to get different things to show up. None of it makes sense. It's frustrating every time I use it. I forced myself to use it. Why? Because my kids are using it, right? So I not only wanted to have them show me, but I wanted to have that personal experience of what it is to use it. And I understand why they want to use it. And now that I've gone in there and done it, I'm not doing it anymore. So, you won't find me Snapchatting all around the place, but at least I've gone in and rolled up my sleeves and tried to figure it out. And honestly, trying to figure it out with your kids, they might roll their eyes at you, or, they might give you a hard time for asking them to help you learn this new thing called Snapchat, or this new thing called Twitch or whatever. But truthfully, having them show you what it is and having them help you learn about it is a great catalyst to having a really positive and purposeful discussion with them about how and when it's going to be used and for what they're going to use it. So, my suggestion, get on in there, try every app you can, make an account, play around with it. If you're not understanding how it works, ask your students to help you. And then after you've given it a shot, you can mothball it. You don't have to be on all these platforms for the rest of your life. But at the very least, if you know that your children are going to have an interest in this, I recommend giving it a shot. So here's what I was talking about with the categories, right? That the digital citizenship book that I talked about outlines 3 main use cases for social media apps. And of course, these are going to overlap, right? But generally, you're going to have apps like these ones listed: texting, Snapchat, FaceTime, WhatsApp, House Party, Discord, GroupMe. What are these things, right? They're generally ways to connect with other people, right? And certainly they've heard enough lessons in our school programs and from you and from our partners at the Mount Lebanon Police Department and everybody about safe connecting and not connecting with people you don't know and all these things. And that's important. But it's for the purposes of tonight's thing, it's also important to understand that there can be a lot of positive value to connecting as well. And these apps can enable a connection, especially now that we're in COVID world, right? The ability to have strong connections with your friends is severely hampered by COVID, right? We all feel that. And social media apps can be used to maintain and even strengthen connections with friends, family, coworkers, etc. So there can be a lot of positive outcome to this. So recognizing that this app is a connection app is a positive first step in understanding it. Some apps are made for sharing, right? Instagram, Twitter, blogging apps. 1 second every day is an app where it just takes a 1 second video clip every day, and then it stitches them all together into a long video. It's kind of cool. But it's for sharing pictures that you take or thoughts that cross your head. And then there's entertainment apps. There's pure entertainment apps, right? I'm pretty sure that we all know one or more children who have been sucked into a YouTube black hole consuming entertainment videos. And I've certainly rolled my eyes at all the number of minutes that my kids can watch someone else play a video game online. It's remarkable, but it's not mine to say. No judging, right? But by the same token, I know a number of adults who can get sucked into these holes as well, watching YouTube. And the next suggestion, and Google is owning YouTube. Google is very good at predicting what you'll like based on what you've told it you already like. So things to be cautious of are the amount of time you're spending going down rabbit holes. But it helps to know when an app comes along that it's basically an entertainment app. It's meant to draw you in. Now, Game Pigeon comes with the Apple's iMessenger. It's basically online games built into text messaging. So it can be interactive and social gaming as well. It's not just mindless consumption of videos, but so those are your 3 use cases. Very helpful to know. And I want to get into this notion of social citizenship. Social citizenship, I'm going to read this to you. Person who develops the knowledge and skills to use social media effectively and responsibly. And to be a good citizen, you have to have respect for yourself and others online and have a positive attitude. And you are responsible for your actions online. Kind of like regular citizenship, but in an online fashion, right? I challenge my children to uphold this and be good social citizens. And here's how you can help your children be good social citizens. You can be involved with their online behaviors. You can create boundaries. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Build trust and learn together. I already talked about that. So, a student, heck, any human who follows these tenets online is going to be a positive force, a good social citizen. Okay, so here's an idea: family plans agreements. To the idea of importance of boundaries, right? Letting your children know what those boundaries are, having them know that you'll be checking those boundaries. It doesn't necessarily have to involve filters. Typically when I'm in front of real people and not a screen with the record button pressed, I will get questions about filters, internet content filters at home. So certainly no judging. Typically the best place to go for that is your internet provider. Whether you have Verizon or Comcast or whoever brings the internet into your house, that's a great first step for if you want to filter, but it doesn't have to involve it. There are other components of a family agreement or a family plan. For example, my kids know that they need my approval to download all apps. Any app they want to download, I have to approve. And any app that they download or any account that they have online, I must know their password. So I certainly don't spend 12 hours a night auditing all of their online activity, but I certainly could. And they know that. They know that I have all their passwords. And also, in my house, we do not allow devices in the bedroom. No judging, but this is what I do, right? So the way that we instill that is we have the charging ports in the living room. So before you head up to bed, charge in your device. And it sort of magically takes care of the no devices in the bedroom issue. So there are actual formal family agreements, right? This is another good quote. You know, we don't teach our kids to drive by showing them a video or preventing them from getting in the car, right? We teach them how to be safe. This is especially poignant to me with the 16-year-old. We teach them to be safe in vehicles. We wear our seatbelts, follow the laws of the road, helping them learn skills. We teach them how to be a defensive driver so they can minimize their risk of getting in an accident, right? I don't know if anybody watching ever had a roommate agreement in college. I used to get a lot of blank stares when I bring that up, but back in my day, there were a number of my friends from high school who had dorm situations with a roommate agreement and a contract where, you know, both people actually sat down and agreed on things and wrote it down and even signed it. And it really helps when there's an issue down the road that might have violated one of the tenets in the agreement to say, you know, we did sit down and talk about this. We wrote this down even. So, you know, a family plan or agreement can go as far as writing it down and signing it. So something to think about. If you're thinking about it, whether it's written down or whether it's just oral or understood, right? Some things to consider in making a family agreement. You know, how much time is acceptable? How much time online outside of homework is acceptable? Is it okay to be playing Minecraft with your friends from noon until bedtime on a Saturday? And you talk about single day limits or average over a week. You know, I'm not actually recommending any specific answers here, right? But these are considerations that families should figure out will work best for them as a family, right? And it turns out, nice little side benefit, you know, this can help with your kids having their own time management skill development. Something that we always need extra help with at our house. Place, right? So are devices okay in the bedroom? You know, aside from possible safety concerns, hopefully you know that the kind of light that's emitted from smart devices has been studied to affect sleep habits. So, you know, I'll just say probably not a good idea, but again, no judging. Do you have the ability to shut off technology, unplug the router? When will you do that? Under what conditions will you unplug the router? You know, I mentioned that we have a charging station for all our devices downstairs, right? And guess what? It can't hurt for you to try out these rules yourselves, because it's not all just about, you know, being safe or dangerous online. It's about having positive sleep habits. And what adult, as well as student, doesn't need positive sleep habits? Geez, I could use some positive sleep habits. So I try really hard not to use my device in the bedroom. You know, so feel free to try out some of these ideas yourself, because it's got more benefits than just being safe online. Content, right? So how do you know your children download apps? Do you check? Do you have reporting, different Android, Apple solutions for all these possibilities? You know, both companies offer parental controls over your child's accounts online. Do you know your students' passwords for the online websites, for the apps that they use, right? Will you be doing random checks? Do they know you're doing random checks? You know, all things to consider in putting together an agreement. And again, that agreement doesn't have to be written, but certainly there would be no harm in writing that down. Okay, so here's some other things you can do. You can model positivity, right? You can encourage your kids to use social media for more than just selfies. right? You can show them how to use it as a tool to affect the world. Doing so also helps your team develop kindness and maybe even gratitude. And what you do, your kids see. So do you use digital calendars? Because our students will sure need to have digital calendar skills as they go through our program here at Mount Lebanon, and certainly with whatever they do with their lives after Mount Lebanon. Digital calendars will be an important thing in their lives. So do you use them? Do you model them? How to use them? Instant messaging, text to family, are they respectful? Do you think about the voice you use in those messages and texts? Do you use Alexa around the house? Do you illustrate some positive ways of home automation? Do you let your students participate in how you automate your home? Make suggestions on what could be automated. We talked about exploring the apps your child tells you they're interested in, sharing positivity online. Sharing positivity knows no age, right? So go ahead and model that. Share positivity online and let your kids see you choose them over tech distractions. That can be one of the most positive things in knowing that it's not all right to always be going to that phone. I know that drives a lot of parents crazy. And one of the most powerful things I've seen is parents who make an active effort and a concerted effort to not drift to their phones when they're with their kids. So of course, I've got that in the next slide on how to not model negativity, right? Please never use your phone while driving. You sure don't want your kids doing it, so don't let them see you do it, because don't do it. Are you following the rules you set for your kids? And if there are different rules for kids and different rules for adults, do both you and the kids understand why that is, right? So not saying that everybody has to live by the same set of rules, certainly, but when there's a difference, are you sharing that with your kids? I mean, do they understand why it's different, right? And check your online behavior. Do you feel like on a nice versus mean scale, your online contributions to the world would lean towards nice or towards mean? And knowing that you want to model for your kids, I would just offer that you try to make sure you're on the nice side of that spectrum. Okay, so now that I've been talking at you without interaction, I apologize, but blame the COVID. I want to point out a number of resources. And the most important thing about this busy slide is that at the very top is a link of www.mtlsd.org/tech resources. And that is a place where all of these links and more exist. So this is the book by Nancy Smith that I mentioned. Quick, easy, beneficial, positive read. I really like this book. I also like quick reads. For those of you that know me, I'm not one to sink my nose into a 1,000-page book. Again, no judging. Plenty of my friends are, and I love that about them, but that's not me. So this book in particular was a very good, purposeful, thoughtful, quick read that I recommend for everybody. But a number of these websites offer more resources for parents looking to know more about the platforms. Instagram and Snapchat both have parent safety center type websites. And those links, again, are all on the Mount Lebanon Tech Resources page. So explore, check these out, and feel free to always reach out to me with any thoughts, questions, concerns, anything, right? So these are all of the social media platforms that I have played with, experimented with. Some of them I use much more than others. Right, but and certainly my email is always dependable, cstengel@mtlsd.net. But if you're on one of these platforms and want to follow or whatnot, give it a go. And if you're not on these platforms and your kids are, maybe think about trying them out, see what you think. For me, there was power in confirming with certainty that I don't enjoy Snapchat. I didn't just feel like an old guy get off my lawn. I actually had personal experience telling me I did not like Snapchat. So feels better. Feels better when I say that. But hopefully this presentation has given you some things to think about. And again, my overarching message, right, is it's all about finding out what works best for your family. There's no one answer. There's no do as somebody says and you'll be okay, right? It's figure out what's going to work best for you and your kids. And here, hopefully this presentation gave you some things to consider, some things to think about, and putting together sort of a outline of, what that plan is. And I hope you got something from it, and hope to hear from you if you have any questions or thoughts or want to catch up. These are all the ways to reach me. So thanks again for spending a half hour-ish with me. And again, I look forward to seeing you at Parent University in person next year. Take care.